I want to welcome everybody to this demonstration. Nazaria Harris last pick. When did she go missing? Part 2. Now we done part 1 yesterday. So for those that may have missed part 1, make sure y'all go back and catch part 1 on the replay. Let me read my copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I want to welcome all of my Facebook family and friends. Salute to the replay gang. Salute to the chat. Salute to my moderators. If you would like to join the Rock Squad, click on that link and get you a membership. If you are catching this on the replay, I will have the membership link in the comment section. Also, make sure you all join me on my backup channel, Smoothie Talk with Shank. I will be going live on the Smoothie Talk with Shank starting tomorrow morning. So make sure you all subscribe to the Smoothie Talk. Let me salute, and then we're going to just jump straight into part 2. Salute Cindy, Capricorn Chronicles, Kern, One Love, April. I'm going to try and stay on here, but I'm not doing really good. I'm sick. Can I get everybody to throw up some prayer hands for April? She's not feeling well today. Prayer hands for April. All right, y'all. Let's just dive into part 2. Now, we're going to just start off where we left off on part 1. What kind of smoothie we making? I'm going to be making all kind of smoothies. Healthy smoothies to help you lose weight, all kind of smoothies. So just make sure you subscribe to the Smoothie Talk with Shank. All right. Salute Rhonda. Can I get everybody to give Rhonda a warm welcome? This is Rhonda's first time over here with Shank and the Rock Squad. Let's give Rhonda a warm welcome. Salute Virtuous. Wilder, salute. Mel, I see, salute. Everybody give Rhonda a warm welcome. Now let's just pick up where we left off at. The closing arguments.
We acknowledge that probable cause is a low standard, but it isn't just limited to whether the prosecution has presented significant or sufficient evidence on each element of the offense, which we submit they have not. They also must determine that there's a reasonable ground of suspicion supported by circumstances sufficiently strong to warrant a cautious person to believe the accused is guilty. That definition of probable cause, or that characterization, comes from People v. Carter, which is 250 Mishap 510. And so you have to have both elements of the crime met, and also those elements have to be met by evidence that is sufficiently strong to believe that it is relevant, that it actually proves what it is saying that it proves. And here we have conjecture, we have speculation, we have supposition, and we have somebody who he did have something to hide. But there's no evidence that he did anything about that. He didn't threaten her. He didn't ask her, or say if anybody finds out, that, I will go to jail, or you could go to jail, or you could be hurt. There was nothing like that in any of those conversations that we saw. So, Your Honor, even by the relatively low standard of probable cause, we'd submit that there is insufficient evidence of both the idea that Mr. Butts did something to cause the death of Nazaria Harris, and that he intended to kill her, or that intent to kill was premeditated. We don't know what happened when she left his shop on January the 9th around 9 o'clock. But I think it's safe to say we know she didn't go to his house where Angel Leonard was, or Angel Leonard would probably be here in court and telling us what a weird interaction she had with him and why it was strange that he wouldn't come inside the house or why he wouldn't let her outside the car where he was. We don't have any evidence that she went with him to the Park Crest Motel. We don't have any evidence that they were together beyond 8:30, 9 o'clock on January the 9th. And for that, we're asking the court to deny bind over on count 1, premeditated murder in the first degree.
Now, of course, the attorney from part 1, we see in part 2, the attorney is still nodding off. Now, my opinion, and I went back over part 1 early this morning, I believe that the defense has proven that it's evidence that supports. Now, we're going by these messages because this is what the prosecution has brought in as crucial evidence and key evidence, the messages. Now, as the defense has laid out, it does indicate that Jarvis did inappropriate, and I got to use that word for YouTube policies, but in the messages, it can be proven that there was some inappropriate touching going on. The defense is not trying to get away from that. However, the defense is proving their case that the unaliving, there's no evidence in these messages that indicate that there is an unalive. He never threatened her. He didn't threaten her in the messages. Mel says, I think the defense has the strongest argument. Drop a 1 if you feel the same way as Mel. Drop a 2 if you disagree. Salute Top Flight. But in the defense closing argument, in my opinion, they prove that Jarvis never threatened to take her life. Jarvis never indicated any of that. But how do y'all feel? How do y'all feel? Salute, Lisa. Abel says, that's why I keep saying I feel like he didn't sit there and hurt her, but he helped cover it up, and he's just as guilty as the rest of that's the case. And I believe the majority of us feel the same way you feel, April. You can't prove. Now, a crime took place. I think the defense, I think she handled this very well. Now, I'm not sure about sleeping Snow White in the back that keeps nodding off, but I will give her credit in these closing arguments. She did, in my opinion, she did prove that Jarvis never indicated anything about taking her life in the messages. We focusing on these messages, all right? Salute Sheik. Sheik says facts. Also think about the one charge of red rum. Pedo, yes. M, no. I'm with you, Sheik. I'm right there with you. I see you, Pretty Problem Niche. I feel like they tried an abortion and things went terribly wrong. And that could be, in my opinion, Precious, that could be what happened. That could be what happened. Is Jarvis a monster, psycho, sex predator? Yeah, that's him. But the unaliving, it hasn't been proven. And I know, but Shank, Kim Worthy said they got video. Shank, Kim Worthy said they got evidence. Shank, wait till the trial. Well, I got news for you all. The trial that's going to take place is not going to be the trial that we have been thinking it was going to be. All right? The defense's questioning of the witnesses was stronger. Salute, Miss TT. We're gonna cook. We're gonna cook in part 2. I feel like that was her aunt and grandma, that they just wanted her out of the way no matter what. Exactly. Salute, Cotan. Salute, Candy. Shy. I don't think Jarvis is sleeping. I just think he couldn't face them due to the inappropriate touching. We can wait for the trial, but we're going to feel how we feel now. We're going to have mixed feelings at that trial when the trial starts, Precious Metal. Salute, Quita. Appreciate you for pulling up, Quita. Mel says, I concord, Shane. But let's get back. Once again, shout out to my Facebook family and friends. I see you, Leslie. Let me take this one. I feel like all of them are in it together, and they're trying to get financial gain off this baby's demise. Yes. Salute, Almighty Streams. I feel Jarvis is a monster, but I feel certain family members took part in the disappearance or unaliving. Good point. Let's come on back, y'all, to the closing arguments.
First, Judge, I'm going to start with talking about People v. Fisher that Ms. Quick just referenced. And it is important to note that this case is distinguishable for the following reasons. One, we're talking about a different standard. This was a trial issue, a directed verdict standard, where the court is saying at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. First of all and foremost, it's distinguishable for that reason. Secondly, though, the court in Fisher said, in this case, there was no physical evidence such as bloodstains or a weapon linking defendant to Joyce's death. In this case, we have bloodstains. We have bloodstains on the hoodie that was found at 7 Mile and Bird, where the defendant spent 2 hours on the night of the 10th going into the 11th. That places them together in the same spot and is very strong evidence that Neziah Harris is in fact dead. Secondly, though, Judge, having dealt with People v. Fisher, Ms. Quick talked about the 9th and 10th, that no one saw the defendant with Neziah for that day going into the 10th and into the 11th. However, we heard from one of his significant others or girlfriends that he was secretive, that he didn't want anyone looking at his phone. And we certainly know that he knows how to keep different women and or girls away from each other.
I feel where my man coming from. But shit, I'm like that with my phone. You know, I'm sure most of y'all are like that with your phone. I don't want nobody going through my phone. Different reasons. You know, Shank Rock, are you hiding anything? It's not that I'm hiding anything in my phone. It's just I got some personal things in my phone. But my man, he raised a good doubt. That could be doubt. You know, with him mentioning Jarvis didn't want girls, friends of his going in his phone. But then what he raised, and he answered it. You said it yourself, my man, because he got these different girlfriends, these different women. So once again, I'm still not convinced that they have proven that Jarvis unalived her. I'm still not convinced. I'm convinced that he inappropriately touched her. I'm with that all the way. But I'm still not convinced that they've proven that he unalived her. Now they talk about the hoodie. They talk about the pink onesie. They talk about, well, the DNA, you know, blood, things of that nature. Why would Jarvis's blood or why would Jarvis's DNA be on the hoodie or the onesie? And it's just a question. I'm just asking a question for everybody to weigh in on. Why would his DNA, did Neziah put up a fight? Did she put up a fight? See, for me, I still dwell on if whoever unalived Neziah, if they went through the necessary steps of getting rid of her body, they wouldn't have been careless to leave behind that hoodie and that onesie with DNA on it. Many of y'all feel like they planted. Whoever unalived Naziah planted the hoodie in the onesie. Tia says, "Hi, I have been watching for a while, and I don't feel that they met burden of proof that he planned and unalived her. The family is hiding what happened." And I believe that most of us believe what you believe, Tia. Appreciate you for pulling up. Appreciate you for pulling up. Let me come back. Let me come back to my man.
For example, I believe it was Shannon Harris that testified that she was familiar with an address of Outer Drive in Belfort, but she had no idea other than the fact that she would pick the defendant up there at different times. We know through other testimony that the defendant was dating someone that lived there. And with respect to Ms. Quick saying that Naziah never threatened him, never did anything, I'm not sure if this one text message was highlighted by the OIC in this case when she testified, but on November 27th, 2023 at 23 hours and 37 minutes UTC time, Naziah said to the defendant, "When I see you, I'm a fuck you, tell you regret not answering my calls," which I would submit to this court is a threat. And then just over a month later, she says she goes missing at the hands of the defendant. And
Let me backtrack. Who was that? Was that Jarvis or was that Naziah? Let me backtrack, y'all.
With 23 hours and 37 minutes UTC time, Naziah said to the defendant, "When I see you, I'm a fuck you, tell you regret not answering my calls," which I would submit to this court is a threat.
Well, if that's so, then that would be Naziah threatening Jarvis. And I backtracked, and he did say that message came from Naziah threatening Jarvis. Right, Max? That seems like Shannon texts that. See, this case is upside down, leaning to the side. This case is just, it's so jacked up. And the reason why it's jacked up, because it's bigger than Jarvis. It's bigger than Jarvis. I feel that they wanted the baby to traffic it or sell to others. There is a lot of speculations, which only presents a case of child abuse and SA, but not the M word. There it is, Tia. Now, I don't know why the defense, because not the defense, the prosecution, you want to present evidence that shows Jarvis threatening Naziah. But in this, and maybe I missed something, but he only showed the opposite, Naziah threatening Jarvis. And I don't believe Jarvis responded back in an aggressive manner, but I don't know. We're going to go and see how Jarvis responded. I don't think Jarvis responded at all, but we're going to see. Max says, "I agree, Shank." Salute, Tracy. Salute, LaTanya. Salute, Chandra. There's no evidence of Jarvis threatening her. I mean, so let's get back and see what my man got to say.
By the OIC in this case when she testified, but on November 27th, 2023 at 23 hours and 37 minutes UTC time, Naziah said to the defendant, "When I see you, I'm a fuck you, tell you regret not answering my calls," which I would submit to this court is a threat. And then just over a month later, she says she goes missing at the hands of the defendant. And Miss Quick also talked about the driving around that Cordell and Jarvis were doing and how it was an unplanned meet up with Neziah on the 9th. However, that may be true from Cordell's perspective, because he wouldn't have known what Jarvis's plan was at that time. But clearly on the 9th, send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number. And then the defendant's response, okay.
So Jarvis didn't respond right away. I mean, man, it was a month after Neziah threatened Jarvis to bang the ish out of him. So then a text message don't come until a month later from Jarvis, or she went missing a month later.
And Jarvis was the one driving per Cordell's testimony. Now, Ms. Quick also talked about the knives and how the knives found in the defendant's car of the one that was tested came back negative, and that's true. We cannot dispute that. However, we know that that was more than a month after, giving the defendant plenty of time to clean it. But beyond that, Judge, this case is one where the defendant thought to, and successfully did, hide the body. And it's a common sense inference that if he thought to hide the body, he would also think to get rid of the murder weapon at the same time. And Judge, Ms. Quick is right. We are talking about a probable cause standard. And as I said, the question is, did the defendant with premeditation probably murder Neziah Harris? And I submit to this court that the answer is yes. And circumstantial evidence, as is noted in the jury instructions at trial court or in circuit court, is just as good as direct evidence. And yes, this is a circumstantial case, but when we put those circumstances together, including the physical evidence, the cell phone evidence, which I would equate with physical evidence for purposes of that, as well as the defendant's opportunity and motive, the picture becomes very clear that the defendant, Jarvis Butts, took the life of Neziah Harris to protect himself from the eventual discovery of his child that he was going to have with her, or at the very least thought he was going to have with her. I ask this court to bind over as charged with the addition or increase of this criminal sexual conduct second degree.
Now, let me ask y'all this, all right? Now, and I'm just asking, this is not the first. So remember the CPS report against Jarvis. I believe that was in 2022. Now, could it been, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and they didn't mention this, the prosecution didn't mention this, but could Jarvis had been planning this since that CPS report? Because it would, in my opinion, that would play a part of why Jarvis would unalive her, the CPS report, but they didn't mention anything about that CPS report. I think she communicated with Jarvis after the last text because she felt comfortable planning the pickup after school. If she hadn't, how would she guarantee that he would be there on the 29th? Good point. Salute, Nisha. Salute, Naisha. Leslie says, they all know what happened to Jay Harvest. They all needs to be locked up. Matt Shank, that's very true, OG, because I'm going to play devil's advocate in this, and I'm going to help the prosecution find the motive, because they're looking for a motive. What would make him, what would cause him to take her life? And the prosecution motive is that he was trying to hide the fact that she was pregnant or get rid of two birds with one stone. That's what the prosecution is going after. No, there was no plan because he had plenty of time to have gotten rid of her. Exactly. Now, why wouldn't he take her life behind that CPS complaint? Is it that, well, Shank, they didn't pursue it, so he felt as though he was in the clear? Possibility. There's different possibilities. if that was the case, he would have unalived the other ones. Correct. Why only Naziah? Why single out Naziah to unalive her when there's others? When I say others, other children that he inappropriate touched. I agree, they know what and where she is. Others will go down for that too. True, Top Flight. Salute, Passion. The baby was the difference. Possibility. He couldn't have took the lesser sentence with just SA. Why unallow her and get life? True. The C Shank with not having a body, that gives me hope that she's still out there. She was underage, the others weren't. Could have. Shannon had hate, jealousy, and pride to face. Now, see, when it comes to anybody having a strong enough motive to take Naziah's life, it points to Shannon. Shannon had the strongest motive. Shannon was jealous. She was jealous. The others were against his, but the baby was the proof. Okay, Precious. Okay. If he was in love with her, like they saying, why he didn't talk her out of having the baby instead of harming her? Good point, Top Flight. Max says absolutely. No body, no red rum, weapon, circumstantial evidence. And there's no weapon, there's no body, but they left behind a hoodie, they left behind a onesie. And we know, I see you, Jamil. I don't want to miss your comment. But we know from her last picture, right? She don't have on a pink onesie. Now, she could have had it underneath what she have on. I'll say that. I'll throw that out there. She could have had on that pink onesie under this. But why would those that is responsible for unaliving her make sure that there's no weapon, make sure there's no body, but would be that careless to leave behind the hoodie and the onesie? I'll ask the question. When did Naziah Harris actually go missing? Also, is this the last picture of Naziah Harris? Because even the picture makes you come to the conclusion that she's waving bye-bye. So whoever it is that's responsible, they went through some channels to throw us off. I think it goes back to the thought that it was an accident and not actually planned. And that's a good point. Appreciate the super sticker, One Love. Appreciate that super sticker, One Love.
Thank you.
As far as Fisher, I agree with the people that this case is distinguishable. This is a case regarding a trial. And the one thing I had highlighted in pink is the quote, in this case, there was no physical evidence such as bloodstains or a weapon leaking defendant to Joyce's death. In this case, we don't have the same facts or circumstances. I do agree, this is a circumstantial case, and circumstantial evidence is sufficient for a bind over and even conviction. Today is January 9th, 2025, exactly 1 year, from the day Naziah Harris disappeared. Before I get into the charges, and the main charge of premeditated first-degree murder, I have to speak on Naziah Harris and the community who failed her. and I'm only presented with certain evidence. I don't know the whole story. The attorneys know more than me, the family knows more than me. But from what I have heard over the last 4 days and 5 days total, is that several people failed her. I don't know where her mother is. I don't know anything other than that she was forced to live in a home where she was not protected or given the adequate attention and love. I don't know where her father is. I don't have any mention of him in her life, no presence. To Cordell, AKA King, and all the men who saw Jarvis Butts hanging out and always around these young girls, including Desire, and his 9-year-old daughter going up to the shop to clean up his shop. The school counselor who never showed up, or the person who was supposed to show up if that counselor was absent, after Neziah was on the floor on the day she went missing, saying that she needed to speak to someone and speak to a counselor. There's no mention of CPS, but I wonder what their involvement was over the years, because this was not just a one-year thing. There are text messages at least from 2022. To her adoptive grandmother, Annette Harris, whose testimony, in my opinion, was very questionable. I understand why the people put her on the stand to establish Neziah's residence and the houses on Bedford and the regular routine, to establish also that Neziah was not a runaway child, that she was not a bad kid. I do believe she adopted Neziah. I do believe that she had 6 kids in the house. I believe that Neziah had on a dark hoodie the day she went missing, and that she had on red and black Nikes that day. What is hard to believe is that the defendant never came into the house as she testified. And there was also a minor that testified that he did as well. Text messages that show between him and Neziah that he did in the basement, saying he was going to the shower, stealing her panties. He was always lurking around that house and asking for Janiyah and Zaniyah, from what I know. I even thought about the breakfast routine and saying that all the kids like eating breakfast at school. Did they have a choice? I don't know. But to always send those girls up there to clean up the shop raises questions. And how would
especially when the adults, because when I asked Marquita about her working up at the shop, Marquita said, I'm not no man. So why was Neziah and the rest of the girls, little girls, why were they allowed to work up at the shop? It's a garage. It's a shop. Yes, females should be able to do things that men do. Yes, I agree with that. But in this case, we have at least one female, which is Marquita. She disagreed with doing the same kind of work that a man does. She said it. I wasn't working up there. I'm not no man. Why was Neziah and the other girls up there working? This judge is on point. And this judge don't know, well, then the judge didn't know much about the case, but she knew common sense and she knew the basics when it came to how Neziah was treated. This is why we are advocating for Neziah Harris. This is what it's all about. Nothing more, nothing less. We are advocating for Neziah Harris because they failed Neziah Harris. And they failed her tremendously. They did. All of them. They did. Now, it's going to be, when it comes to the family members, what exactly could they have done? I'll start with the main two. And please, no profanity Please, no profanity in the chat, y'all. But I'll start with the main two. And in my opinion, the main two are the ones that really let her down. And that the grandmother and Shannon, the aunt, because they both knew what was going on as far as Jarvis inappropriately touching Naziah. They knew. Miss Annette, she knew. Shannon, she knows Jarvis's report card. She knows all of the SOs. She knows all of this that's on his report card. She got 5 children by him. He even stooped as low as inappropriately touching his own child. Now, if all of this is true, why would Shannon and Miss Annette have Jarvis around Naziah? Right? The gatekeeper. We see right here, the gatekeeper of the family. This is Miss Annette's brother, right? In my opinion, he is the first line of defense when it comes to protecting the family. This is the great uncle of Naziah. But we see his inappropriate touching on camera. Right? You can't dispute that. As much as the family tries to take up for the gatekeeper, even Kenya had to admit when looking at that video, it was inappropriate touching. Social media is not making any of this up. Social media, we're only going by what is presented to us. And that's all we're going by. She was failed. She was failed. It makes you really, really start to question a lot of things because we have a church that's involved, right? And we have church folks involved. If the church is no longer there to protect us, then who can we run to? Who can God's children run to? Last time I checked, we all are God's children. Or are we all God's children? That's another demonstration. But let's stick with we all are God's children. And some of y'all question, Shank, why do you go so hard on church folks? Well, I don't only go hard on church folks. I go hard on Muslims, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics. I go hard on anyone that professes to be a child of God, but I go even harder on those that are in positions. Pastors, ministers, evangelists, deacons, etc., etc. Although none of us are perfect, we all fall short. However, it's certain things that even God don't tolerate. Now, if we are God's children, and if we are here as God's representatives, Shouldn't we have that same kind of mind frame? Shouldn't we stick to certain things we're just not going to entertain? See, that church has a lot of answering to do. You know, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, people dared not speak on the church. But in this case, the church is the foundation. The church is the foundation of these monsters. It's sick. It's sick.
There are two women in that house who have birthed children themselves who did not notice that Naziah was pregnant, and I believe she was, and not having her period anymore. But then after hearing text messages today, begging Jarvis for pads as if she didn't have anyone else to give it to her.
Miss Annette, why? And only you know the answer. And maybe Shannon and Marquita. But this question is for you, Miss Annette. Why didn't Naziah feel comfortable to come to you, her nana? Because the last time I checked, Big Mama was everybody's safe haven. Everybody could run to Big Mama. Everybody could run to Nana. Everybody could run to their grandmother. Why did this little girl have to go to a man and ask a man for personal items? We all know the personal items. She went to Jarvis. Why didn't she come to you, Miss Annette? Why wasn't? Because in my opinion, and ladies, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, the items that she went to Jarvis for, those items, that's something, those items, females always have them, if not stacked up. Females are always on top of those items, whereas though they got access to them. Now, you the grandmother of this little girl. Did you know that she was, experiencing the time of the month? Did you know that? Now, as her grandmother, you were supposed to have known, and you were supposed to been on top of that. That's a necessity of a female that you just can't let just go by. All females that experience it, that time of the month, all females need those necessities. Right? And that's a good point. I see you, TB, Lady V. I see the chat. Good point. Shank, how can she go to Annette to talk about Jarvis when she was hunching him too? Salute, Shelly. That's putting it straight with no chaser. Annette, and I gotta say allegedly, Annette allegedly was hunching Jarvis as well. We seen the video.
And what stood out the most was when Annette Harris stood on the stand, and she learned around 6 p.m. that Naziah did not come home from school and said she looked around for her and decided to wait until the next morning to call the police.
That's the judge. That's the judge calling you out, Miss Annette. Now, if all of us could point that out, if all of us can call you out about waiting until the next morning to report it, the judge called you out. You can't escape that. You can't escape that.
Without a tear, without emotion, or any expression of being devastated.
Without a tear, without any emotions of being devastated. The judge picked that out. The judge pointed that out. Salute, I'm on one.
And to her Aunt Shannon, who also showed no emotion, expression of being devastated from Naziah going missing.
To her Aunt Shannon, who also showed no emotions of her being missing. The judge calling y'all out.
She stated that she had friends help look for Naziah, but was directed to just wait until the morning to call the police. A grown woman who likely suspected something strange going on didn't feel the need to call the police either.
A grown woman, and even you, out of your own mouth, your own words, Shannon, you asked Miss Annette, should we call the police? You knew something was wrong. And even though that's Mom Dukes, you knew Mom Dukes was wrong. So even though Mom Dukes told you, no, we're going to wait till in the morning, why didn't you go over Mom Dukes' head and say, nah, ma, we need to call the police now? We've all been in that situation before when we had to override our mom's decision on something. Why didn't you override your mom's decision on calling the police?
They were both able to go to sleep at night without hearing from Naziah or having any indication that she was coming home that night. And of course, the defendant, who I will get to in a minute. I don't know who else failed Naziah, but the community did. As far as the people establishing probable cause, I will focus on count 1 as it's been stated that there is no contention with counts 2 and 3. In count 3, I will amend based off of the motion and the testimony I heard that Naziah was 12 and not 13 at the time that Jarvis Butts had sexual intercourse with her. The prosecution is correct. You do not have to have a body to establish first-degree premeditated murder.
And that's true. And that's not only the case in Michigan, that's also the case in other states as well. You don't need the body. You don't.
It would have been a much shorter exam had her body been found, but this is where we are. In the last 365 days, no text messages. We all heard today and yesterday that she was very active and frequently texted. No social media for a year. We heard through testimony that she was also active on social media. No phone calls, which she was also able to do according to testimony. No physical sighting of her by anyone. She never came back to school. No one has seen her. Medical records dated from July 2014 to October 2023 indicated that she had no life-threatening medical issues that would lead to a natural cause of death. The black hoodie found in the area of 7 Mile and Berg with her DNA and blood on it. The holes in the hoodie consistent with some sort of struggle, violence, or weapon being used. And we know that there were no holes in that hoodie when she wore it to school We saw a picture of her in a black hoodie on her last day that everyone saw her. I do believe her grandma testified truthfully about the sweatshirt that she had on and that was practically new. And the border agent who said that no evidence of animals would have destroyed the clothing or the shoes to possibly lead to animals tearing up that hoodie. The clear glasses found in the blue Nissan the day after she went missing, the behavior of the defendant when he snatched those glasses. They looked exactly like the glasses she had on in her last picture, according to the witness. The shoes that her brother described as the same shoes that were found also in the area of 7 Mile and Bird, near the hoodie. While this is still probable cause, the evidence all points to Jarvis Butts. His locations, him being seen with her last, the abortion searches, the abrupt silence between the two of them in text messages, and the constant lies he told throughout the entire investigation. And they were proven to be lies with text messages and other testimony. We may never know what happened, but from what I heard today and over the last 4 or 5 days, it appears he intended to perform what he thought was a do-it-yourself abortion on Isaiah and went south, and instead of seeking medical attention for her, he intentionally killed her and tried his best to cover it up. As much as I want her to be alive today, there is at least probable cause to show and believe that she's dead and that she was murdered by Jarvis Butts. Mr. Butts, stand up.
Just looking and just her energy, she want to get off that bench and slap the shit out of Annette, Shannon, and Jarvis. Just her whole energy. Her whole energy. Miss T says, mothers always know when their child need those. Salute Mariah and Kariah, blessed, reborn, salute. They never even testified that they called her phone. Exactly. And somebody mentioned that. None of them testified, well, first thing we done was we text her phone. We called her phone because remember Top Flight and everybody. Remember, Miss Annette and them said she ain't have a phone. But come to find out, she did. They made the religion up themselves. Yes. Because I don't know what religion they practicing.
You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorneys with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say.
What's going through his mind? What's going through your mind, Jarvis? They didn't inbox her on social media or nothing. Nothing. In my opinion, if she died, it was from going into labor and complications, not Jarvis. Good point, Lady V. Yes, her microaggression shows it all. If they think Jarvis so retarded, then who told him to look up the antifreeze? They practice the lying religion. Appreciate that super chat, Rasha. Appreciate that. Thing one. What's going through your mind, Jarvis?
I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point, I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you're just a true definition of a pedophile. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them and having them in your presence, cleaning up your shop. And the little girls around you have landed you here today. You groomed Isaiah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Naziah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as defense counsel has raised issues on count one, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear at Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our Black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered. Your bind over date is January 16th at 9:00 a.m. Anything else for the record?
For the people, Judge, thank you.
Not for defense.
Let me see what my chat got to say. He thinking I'm going down for these, you know what? And Shannon had the password. I didn't do it. What's going through his mind? Shannon, they all rode the short bus to school. I think Shannon is the mastermind. The religion they're into is lying. He thinking, and that Shannon, y'all better speak up, hoes. I believe they're all a part of a cult that doesn't care anything about the kids like the one they have in Hollywood. I feel you. I agree with you, Nay. Boy, take that mask off. No need to hide. The judge appears to him like a mother, which he didn't have. I just don't see him killing her. Everything else, yes, I just don't see him. I mean, and I'm not taking up for Jarvis. They didn't do nothing. They all were groomed, but the madam knew better. She pimped them all out. I mean, at 13 years old, we know his story. We know his story. Well, let me come here. We know his story. Now, this is the woman that inappropriate touched Jarvis when he was 13. Right? He got screwed as a kid. And like I said, it's not to justify, but Jarvis got screwed as a kid. They didn't do anything. They all were groomed, but the madam knew better. She pimped them all out. Salute Joelle. Salute Joelle. But, and we can see the effect that it had on Jarvis, right? Shannon is not the mastermind, and that is the mastermind. They do as she say. This is the effect that it had on Jarvis. On Jarvis' side, it started with his dad trying to be a pimp, and that was the madam of that brothel. Wow. Wow, Tristan. So these are the women in Jarvis' life. And the girlfriends and baby moms, they all favor. And they all favor the woman that inappropriate touched them. I think that baby is somewhere being trafficked for money. It's strange to me. He looked it up in December and went to court to get intention and unalive her that day, but Shannon had a DNA test next day. So when was the DNA test appointment made? And was that the issue behind this, all the DNA tests? And that is the madam. Jarvis was just the devil that entered all their lives. Salute, Dream Chaser. A daughter of mine would be kicked out the family for even thinking she could bring a taker around my family. Exactly. Exactly. Nobody going to allow that. Nobody's going to allow that. You ain't bringing him around here. And just for being that stupid, just for being that dumb, for dating this guy and having 5 babies by this guy, you can't even come around the family no more. The family would have been on him. Everybody's family is structured like that. No matter what state, no matter what city, no matter what country. That's just how your family is structured. When it comes to a pedophile, no family, from south to north to east to west, no family is going to have a Jarvis Butts around their family members. It could be a family full of 9-to-5 workers. They ain't having it. It could be a family full of CEOs. They ain't having it. It could be a family of Muslims, a family of Christians. It make a difference what family it is. They're not going to allow a Jarvis Butts around their family members unless those family members are Jarvis Butts as well. And that's why I keep resorting back to the gatekeeper. And when you check the gatekeeper's record, the gatekeeper, this guy right here done time for SA. This is the same guy. This is Annette's brother. This is that same guy right there. A family full of dope fiends ain't having it. It's just your natural instinct as a man and as women. Women ain't gonna have it. But Shannon and Annette was so strung out over Jarvis. I gotta give Marquita flowers for that. Marquita said she wasn't his type. And every question that I brought up to Marquita about Jarvis, you could test the energy. Marquita ain't care for Jarvis at all. Salute, Nene. Salute, Tammy. Marquita ain't cared for him. But Shannon and Annette, they was hung over heels for Jarvis. I get Shannon. I mean, love will make you do some strange things. I just don't get Annette. But then Annette and Jarvis was in the room. Jarvis was supposedly been painting, but the door was locked. And it's like this woman's son said. This woman's son said that those women, those old women, was sexing Jarvis. ladies, do y'all see what y'all funky asses got y'all self into by chasing behind them light-skinned dudes? See, y'all ain't want the dark-skinned dudes. Y'all don't want the dark-skinned dudes. He too dark. And y'all funky asses chase after them light-skinned dudes. And that's what y'all funky asses get for chasing behind them light-skinned dudes. Them light-skinned dudes will do it every time. But it's sad, you know. It's sad. It's sad. Exactly. The red bones. Fellas, y'all be chasing after them red bones. Salute Marie. She was an older woman. I'm 41 and never took a second look at Light Bright. Talk with friends. Exactly. I just want to do that's going to treat me right, Tanya. Right. That's what they funky asses get. Talking about, I had them tell me before, you too dark. I said, what? The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Yeah. There you go, Tammy. Blackberry, sweeter the juice. I'm 41 and I never took a second look at Light Bright. Too darn prissy. Yeah, y'all remember back in the 80s. I'm a 70s baby. So I caught hell. I caught hell when it came to them light-skinned dudes. Remember Albie Shore? Shout out to Albie Shore, though. Christopher Williams. I like them blurred purple. Them old women should have went to jail. Shank, have you paid attention to how they protect the gatekeeper when you bring up his charges to the ones you've had on your panel? I spoke on that, Mel. But even Roxy's mother, Kenya, as much as she take up for him, even she had to say, yeah, that video with him dancing behind her, yeah, that was inappropriate. That was messed up. April says, what's wrong with that, the white person, Shane? The light skin, April. The light skin, not the white. The whites, y'all stay out of this one. We talking light skin. But, you know, in the black community, for those that don't know the history of the light skin versus the dark skin, give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. So, during slavery, the light-skinned slaves were used against the dark-skinned slaves because most of the light-skinned slaves were children of master. And so, you know, of course, master gave his children, which were the lighter slaves, special privileges. And that trickled down to modern day time. You know, not all light-skinned people, but a lot of light-skinned people felt as though and feel as though that they are better than the dark-skinned blacks. And this is even like this in other cultures. The lighter the individual is, they feel like, you know, they're more better than the darker ones. But to fast forward, the females and men, because a lot of black men, y'all was chasing after them light-skinned females, them red bones, until them red bones broke y'all heart. And then y'all funky ass want to run back to the chocolate bunny, the sister. But this is something that's been going on for a long time with light-skinned people. And I ain't, you know, bashing light-skinned people. Let me get off that subject. Y'all. Let me get off of this subject because it can be touchy for some. But let me find this other clip. I'm not going to hold y'all that much longer. Then we're going to get out of here. Appreciate that super sticker intentionally for me. Appreciate that. Tristan says, yeah, salute, sweet talk. So we salute, sweet, tall, the sweet all the time. Salute, sweet all the time. My bad. Does Annette have a son named Eric Gamble Jr.? I don't think so. I don't think so. Kim Worthless, get you silverback ass up and gone down there and lock all their asses up. Ish. Somebody left for Tristan. I see you, Tristan. Tristan says, yeah, it always been color shade. Yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna get off of that light skin, dark skin stuff. But give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. Let me get my thoughts back together. Let me get my thoughts back together. Let's see what I want to show you guys. All right. Was this the last picture of Naziah? What are y'all thoughts on this? Anybody have any thoughts? And also, when did she go missing? When did she go missing?
Yeah, I got you.
No, not her last picture. I love your accent. Appreciate that. Does anyone know if they pull school footage video to show what she was actually wearing? Mel says house ninjas and field ninjas. Please do. LB sure was a woman beater. I'm trying to catch the chat, y'all. I believe it's the last picture. Okay, Shank. Be on your way the other way. Nope. I think she went missing before that date. Didn't she have on is this that jacket they had in court? If so, this is not the clothes from Ring Camera on Bus. Stay right there, y'all. Lady V. Is that the jacket they had in court? Because that's not those clothes from that Ring Camera or the bus. You're absolutely right, Lady V. Absolutely right. This ain't what I want. I can never find. Now, if I wasn't live, the video that I'm looking for, I would be able to go straight to it. Let me backtrack Jarvis' sister for a minute, y'all. Let me backtrack Jarvis' sister for a minute. Shank, on my kid's school tablet that can't go on any sites or communicate with anyone on that. So I don't understand how she was able to do that. But we do know the D is different. Correct. Let's go to Jarvis' sister for a minute, y'all. Salute, D. That's also not the Nickelodeon coat either. Because I even had to backtrack his sister a few times.
And where is it where that Jarvis's truck was?
Outside.
Okay, so you were. Ms. Books, do you recognize what is it we're looking at in People's Exhibit 7?
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
That is the shop
Okay.
right in the middle.
And where at were you parked when you saw someone getting in and out of Jarvis's truck?
In front of the car doors of the garage right here, I was parked facing, I don't know what direction it is, but going towards Gratiot. I was like in front, but outside.
Okay, so you were kind of parked parallel with the road?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you draw a T where your truck was?
My car?
Yeah, your car was.
Can I?
Yes. And then put an arrow the way you were facing. And where is it where that Jarvis's truck was? Just put a J where Jarvis's truck was. And what way was his truck facing?
It was facing my direction, so the front was
Towards you. Okay, so put an arrow for that direction. Okay. Now, do you get a look at this little girl that you see getting in and out of his car?
I saw her, as she was walking. I never saw her face.
Did you see any clothing?
I did.
Okay. Did anything about the clothing stick out to you that you remember?
I just remember her having on a colorful jacket.
And
Now, she testified that she remembered her having on a colorful jacket, right? Which one is it? So, in my opinion, Nazaria must have done a lot of clothes swapping. You know, she must have done a lot of clothes swapping. This one saying she had on that. We got pictures. She got on this. We got pictures. It's a lot of clothes swapping going on. Right. The pink jumper would stand out. I believe that would have been the first thing that she had noticed. She had on a pink jumper. I noticed the pink onesie. It could be me now.
what door, which side do you remember seeing her getting in and out of Jarvis's truck? Or did it change?
I don't really remember.
Okay, that's okay. You said you mostly remember a jacket, a colorful jacket.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you it's marked as People's Exhibit 2, which is already admitted, and People's Proposed Exhibit 10. You under my approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Handing you what's marked as People's Exhibits 2 and 10. Okay. Do you recognize anything in those photos?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
What is it that you recognize?
Right here, this jacket.
And for the record, you're pointing up in channel 1, and you recognize this like pink colorful jacket?
Yes.
Okay. And that's in People's Exhibit 10? Your Honor, I would move for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 10 as Exhibit 10. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the jacket that you saw that day?
Yes.
I move for the proposed People's Exhibit 10.
Any objection?
Okay, now I can take the pink onesie could have been underneath the shirt. I could take that. But what about the pink jacket? What about the different jacket? How do y'all feel about the jacket? Now, allegedly, well, not allegedly, the sweater was black. We see a sweater with her on the picture, and we also have the evidence of a black hoodie sweater. But what about the sister testifying of a pink jacket? Lady, I didn't see one either. Almighty, the teacher said she was wearing a plaid jacket with jeans. Now, that's what the teacher said. So I really believe Naziah might have went home and changed. Leads me to believe she knew exactly what was going on. Facts. I mean, question. You think the sister was touched when she was younger? I've always felt like allegedly, I felt like the sister touched Jarvis when Jarvis was younger. That's my opinion on it. The jacket is the real evidence that they had destroyed. I think these pictures are different days. This is why I think the school footage should be pulled so we can know for sure what she was wearing. King says she had on a colorful jacket, and so did his son's aunt. Facts. You know? First, the pink jumper was too clean, no dirty, no blood. I'm going to need rehab after all this. Salute Suzette. Judge needs to throw out evidence of the clothes first of all. How many of y'all think that the judge should throw out the evidence of the clothes? I thought when the 9-year-old testified, she said Naziah came home and changed after school on January the 9th. I believe that's the same thing also. Salute, Evelyn.
No objection.
Okay, it'll be admitted as People's Exhibit 10.
Okay, and in People's 2, is that also, where is the, what you recognize People's Exhibit 2?
That's a good point. Tristan. Secondly, if you find blood on the blue hoodie, how does the other clothes not have blood, but the shoes got blood on it, on the black hoodie? I agree, throw out the clothes. Did they confirm the blood and the clothings being Naziah? I think they did. I'm not sure.
It looks like channel 2 here, maybe.
Okay, facing the back?
Yeah.
Okay. And you recognize the jacket in this photo too, right? Yes.
It's a little blurry, but it looks the same.
Okay. And what about in channel 1 of Exhibit 2?
It would be this one right here.
Okay, and it's fair to say that's the back of a jacket? Or it seems to be the back of a jacket? Okay, thank you. And you said that you saw this little girl with this jacket on getting in and out and going into the gas station?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know who this little girl was at the time?
No.
Okay. Is there a time that you ever get out of your car?
Yes.
And what do you do?
I needed to use the restroom, so I asked his partner if I could use the restroom. He told me to go and tell him in the gas station. And as I was walking towards the gas station, she was walking in front of me going into the gas station.
Okay. So about how far in front of you was she?
I would say maybe where the gentleman in the gray blazer is behind you. Maybe a little bit farther, I'm not really sure about that distance.
From where you are to him?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm really bad at estimates.
20, 25 feet.
Yeah, I would agree with about 20, 25 feet. And you said you never got a chance to see this little girl's face.
No.
Was there anything else about her that you can remember?
I just remember her being kind of small, like outside of just seeing her get in and out of the car. When I was walking towards her, I was like, she's tiny, and I just remembered the coat.
Okay. Tiny, like in what way? Like tiny, skinny, short?
Kind of skinny and short.
And did you ever ask Jarvis who the little girl was?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me, and I can't remember if it was this exact word or he said it's my partner's niece, or he said it was King's niece.
Okay,
But
but you knew who he was referring to?
yes,
Okay. Did you think anything of it at the time?
no,
Okay.
And it never dawned on you to ask him, well, why is King's niece in and out of your truck? It never crossed the sister's mind to ask, why is King's niece in and out of your truck? Knowing the reputation, knowing what's on your brother's report card. Your brother is a serial child R. And it never dawned on you to question.
And what is it that made you think something? Was there a time where you thought something different?
yes.
Okay, and what is it that made you think something different?
I received phone call, well, a video call from one of his kids' mom, and she told me about some things that happened on Valentine's Day, and then she sent me a video of a podcast about my brother.
Okay. And what did you do as a result of receiving those things?
I called Shannon and I asked her for Sergeant Jones' phone number,
Okay. And who's the Shannon that you called?
his kid's mom.
Shannon Harris?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do anything before you go and talk to Sergeant Jones?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that you do?
Okay, so after having a conversation with Shannon Harris and his other kid's mom, I was informed that his partner King, I guess something happened where the
Objection, this is hearsay.
There's not a statement yet, Judge.
Being informed.
I'm not sure what she's even about to say.
Okay, just to the extent that it's informed of someone else's statement.
You might have to object in a couple moments.
You need to speak up,
If you could stand up and
please.
make your objection.
Yes, just objecting to the fact that she was informed of something. It appears this might be hearsay, but we'll see. Yeah.
Could you finish what you were saying? I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm trying to remember where I left. Okay, so after talking to Shannon Harris and his other kid's mom, I was informed of some things that had taken place. I think Valentine's Day. So they told me that his
So
partner
objection.
King.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so
That
at this point, this is hearsay. They told me, and the lack of personal knowledge of the things that she was informed of.
Max says that lady lying. The kid was missing for 30 days. It was all over the news. You talked to Shannon and Jarvis. That's facts, Max. That's facts.
Finish?
1 second.
One.
What is an objection?
I'm
Everybody-
sorry.
The witness
Sorry.
has to stop talking.
So based on those, do you go and talk to someone else?
Yes.
Okay. Who do you go and talk to?
His partner King
Okay. And where is it that you go and talk to King at?
at the shop on Harbor Encounters.
Okay. And without telling me what King said, kind of describe what was your conversation about?
Well, I went to see what happened, and what was going on. During that time, I told him that I had never seen any little girl at my brother's shop besides my nieces, outside of the little girl that I saw getting out of his truck that day.
Okay.
And you told this to who?
King,
Who is King again?
his business partner,
Okay, and do you know his government name?
I believe it's Cordero or something like that. I just always call him King.
So you went and told him that you hadn't seen anyone out at the shop besides your nieces and then the one little girl you saw that one day.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask him about that little girl?
Well, I didn't ask him about it. After I said that to him, he told me.
Objection, Your Honor, this is gonna be hearsay again.
Judge, it's gonna go to the effect of on the listening.
There could be an exception. I don't know what she's saying. So you might as well just stay standing up. Go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
After I mentioned to him that I had only saw my nieces and one particular little girl, he then told me that that was Naziah that I saw that day and I was there.
I would object then, given.
How many of y'all are believing the sister? How many of y'all believe that the sister didn't know who Naziah was? Drop a 4 if you believe the sister that didn't know who Naziah was. Drop a 5 if you think the sister is lying. Lisa says, well, why the nieces wasn't cleaning up? So that's how she is able to still be texting and posting new videos. In DC, there were 2 females that went missing and their bodies was never found because they was put in the garbage. They had 1 female arrested during time for the M. That judge don't like this. She is fed up. Facts. Facts, Chantel. The judge want to get the smack in somebody. Thought Naziah was there often wild. What does the sister have to gain from lying for him? She seems to be utterly disgusted with her brother. I feel like the sister knew who Naziah was. That's just my opinion. And then also the sister, she asked Jarvis, who's the little girl? Jarvis said, that's King's niece. The sister knew something wasn't right. Now, the sister stopped at asking that question. One thing, and I've said this several times, one thing about a woman's intuition is not going to let her stop at asking one question. Yes or no, y'all? A woman's intuition, she's going to ask more than one question. And that question that she asked, she knew something wasn't right. That's why she asked, who's the little girl in and out of your truck? Oh, that's just King's niece. You mean to tell me the sister gonna stop at that? I don't buy that. Now, maybe any and everything else that the sister is saying, maybe she's truthful about. I don't know. I really haven't got into it all as far as her testimony. That's why I'm backtracking now. But her stopping at that one question, hell to the nah. I can be asleep and a woman can ask me, what was you thinking? I don't know what the hell I was thinking because I was dreaming, right? She gonna come back with another question. Now, that's me when I'm sleeping. You know, why did she stop at that one question? I'm not going to hold y'all that much longer. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. We will continue later on this evening at 10 p.m., we will have part 3 of this demonstration later on at 10 p.m. I'm just going to hold y'all for a few more minutes.
And now that she has testified to that it is hearsay, and that it is being introduced for the truth.
And Judge, I would say that it's actually a statement of identification.
So this is not an identification that she personally made, she's just being told.
When she saw Messiah that day, so it's.
She didn't know who it was. I mean, she had no idea who this was. That's
She
not
didn't know
her
who he was.
identification.
So it is hearsay.
Okay, so without saying what King said, were you informed of anything about a little girl that you saw on January 9th, 2024?
Yes,
Okay, and to your knowledge, Jarvis had told you that that was King's niece.
yes,
Okay, and when you talked to King, did you have reason to not believe what Jarvis told you?
yes,
Okay.
Now, did she say when you talked to King, did you not believe that Jarvis didn't tell you the truth? Yes. Come on. Come on. Let me backtrack to make sure I'm right.
Talked to King, did you have reason to not believe what Jarvis told you?
yes,
Okay. Do you know your nieces from Jarvis? Sorry. That is a poorly worded question. I am sorry.
And before I finish it with that, I just got a message saying, and that last name was Bussy, and that her husband name was also Charles, like Florentino daddy Charles. So Florentino dad is Willie Charles Robinson, and her husband name was. Both was as old. Wow. Wow. And we know that Jarvis lied to his sister because Naziah isn't King's niece. So
if that was your niece, would you have recognized her that day?
yes,
Okay. And you did not recognize this little girl as your niece, did you?
no,
Okay. What is it that you did after speaking with King that day?
I called Shannon Harris and I asked her for Sergeant Jones' phone number.
Okay.
mm,
And did you eventually talk to Sergeant Jones?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to let a little bit more of this play out. Salute everybody. I hope everybody is having a good day. Remember, part 3 will be tonight at 10 p.m. Salute everybody, and I'll see y'all back at I'll see everybody back at 10 p.m. tonight. Salute.
Sorry about that. What day was it that you went to the shop and saw the little girl?
can I ask you a question? I didn't remember the exact day at that time.
Okay. What is it that makes you believe that it was Naziah Harris that you saw on that day?
I'm not quite sure how to answer what you're asking me. Like,
That may be a poorly worded question. I'm sorry. Can I just have 1 second, George?
Yes.
Ms. Butts, did you come to learn of the day that you had gone to Jarvis's shop by going through the locations on your phone?
Yes,
Okay. And that's the day that you don't remember off the top of your head right now, but it is revealed in your phone locations?
yes.
Let's see here. One second, let me find it. When is it that you went through your phone locations to determine the date? Oh, I'm sorry, do you need a moment?
Um, I believe it's February, I think the 24th or the 26th. I can't remember the exact date.
Okay, that's when you would have went through your phone to find those?
Yes,
Okay, and did you also go through that in your interview with Sergeant Jones?
yes.
Okay.